I go to record. I have to shut my window and turn off my fan so that everything is nice and quiet for the recording. And what happens? It immediately raises 5 degrees Fahrenheit in my room. How you guys doing? I'm not doing great, if you can tell. I haven't been feeling all that well, but, I need to make content so I can not die. So, RWBY music. Hate RWBY or love RWBY, at the end of the day, we can all agree that the best part of the show is undoubtedly its music. Oftentimes, we tend to joke that the songs and even background scores of the show tell its stories, especially the character arcs, better than the show itself. And while that hot take isn't perhaps the most charitable, especially considering the show's improvements in recent years, despite what the angry hobgoblins and gremlins in the comments might tell you, there's a reason why this hot take exists. So today we're going to talk about why people absolutely are in love with RWBY's music, thanks to the genius of Jeff and Casey Williams, Alex Abraham, and Lamar Hall. They are musical deities. But before we get into that, let's talk about why music matters in a show like RWBY to begin with, and why people who say, actually it's not all that good and here's why, aren't actually all that smart. And can exit stage right, please. Ideally as quietly as possible. I'm tired, I have a headache, and I'm trying to blast this 30-second clip of Indomitable as I wait 7,000 years for this goddamn soundtrack. Music is often overlooked when it comes to whether a work manages to affect its audience or falls flat on its face. Even the worst or simply mediocre pieces of media can become memorable solely through their soundtracks. Examples including Tales of Zestiria in the mediocre case, and Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness in the abysmal case. Remove the music from practically any piece of media, and odds are it won't have nearly the same impact it once did. For musicals, the importance is obvious, but scores are equally significant in any other piece of media. In RWBY's case, though the music is mostly non-diegetic and is one relatively small aspect of its brand, it's also the thing virtually all fans hype up every year once the most recent volume wraps up. Like, oh my god, I can't wait for the next soundtrack so I can ruin my hearing with the magic of Jeff, Casey, Alex, and Lamar. Myself included. To explain the weird term I used like 30 seconds ago, diegesis has to do with whether an element takes place within the universe of a story or is outside the universe and only perceived by the audience. For example, when Weiss sings This Life Is Mine in Volume 4, the music is diegetic because in the universe of RWBY, she is actually singing. Whereas in the Crow vs. Tyrion fight, Bad Luck Charm is non-diegetic. Unless Crow is just that badass to where he can sing his own song while fighting for his life, because he's that iconic. Oh damn, now I need an AU with Team Stark as like a punk rock band. And Team RWBY is like the story of getting the band back together. Because Yang got no rhythm because she only got one arm. I'll see myself out. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, the death of Jesus. Side note, this is also why people who complain about magical girl transformations not making any sense in that their enemies would kill them while they transformed are annoying and wrong. Because in 99.9% of cases, the transformation sequences exist solely for the audience and do not happen in universe. They are non-diegetic, ya dum-dum. So yeah, music, whether diegetic, non-diegetic, or non-dietary, is important, especially for RWBY where all the songs and scores play roles in the story. So while the Williams songs and Jeff and Alex's scores are great, today we're not going to discuss their musical merit, because I am in no way a musical expert. I'm barely qualified to do video essays, but then again so are all the other hobgoblins. Do they even know what a thesis is? Okay, back on track. But rather the significance the music plays for the show's story and character arcs. But like really, I should state again, I I have no idea how music works. I just look at a sheet of music, and I have war flashbacks to playing the flute in elementary school and continually running out of breath because of fucking course I chose the goddamn flute of all things. Because even as a child, I hated myself enough to pick the most difficult instrument available to me. Anyway. The vast majority of songs in RWBY somehow tie into the characters within the show, be it in their motivations or their character arcs. Weiss, for example, has 5 songs told from her perspective: Mirror Mirror, Mirror Mirror Part 2, Path to Isolation, It's My Turn, and This Life Is Mine. Each song tells the story of a beat within her character arc, which starts at Path to Isolation and ends at This Life Is Mine. For Weiss, these songs tell her story of loneliness and abuse. We begin with her grandfather passing away, her father taking control of the SDC, her mother becoming an alcoholic recluse, all of which begin a long period of her life where she tries to meet the grandiose expectations of the Schnee family name and appease her father, lest she invoke his fury. All of this leads into This Life Is Mine, where Weiss finally shatters the mirror, a metaphor for the image she'd constructed to fit the expectations of her father and the Elysian upper class, and tells Jacques to go fuck himself as she goes to start a new life outside his control. So many of the songs, both alone and strewn together, tell the stories of the characters, whether it's Ruby's anguish over her mother's death when she was still so young, Yang overcoming her traumas and hardships to kick Adam's fucking ass, or Blake vowing to stop running away from her problems and restore the White Fang to its peaceful roots. There are songs that can't really be attached to specific characters, but rather fit better along the lines of the general plot or themes. Usually these are the intros, save for When It Falls, but they still do a pretty good job giving you a solid idea on what to expect for the volume they precede. Let's Just Live for best intro, by the by, the bridge destroys me every time. Until Rising comes out, of course. I need the Volume 6 soundtrack. Now while Jeff and William? Who the fuck are Jeff and William? But who is this? Jeff and William, everyone. Jeff and William. While Jeff and Casey definitely deserve the praise they get for their work on the soundtracks, equal praise ought to be given to not only Jeff, but also Alex Abraham, who together create the background scores for the show. Alex does not get enough credit because not as many people pay attention to the scores. Admittedly, I don't talk about them a lot because, again, I have the musical knowledge of a brain-damaged flamingo, but you know. Give me the Nevermore melodies, Alex. Give them all to me. The scores tend not to get the recognition they deserve, as we just discussed. Hardcore fans will appreciate them when the soundtrack drops, but most people's hype is for the vocal songs. But while I can't speak to the musical quality of the scores as, again, the technicalities of music aren't my forte, we can talk about, like we did for the vocal songs, how RWBY's score helps communicate its story. Almost all the characters have their own theme, oftentimes the melodies of their signature songs. For RWBY, it's Red Like Roses, whereas for Weiss, the melody depends on where she is in her story. It could be a sad rendition of It's My Turn to invalidate her triumphant feelings of escaping Jacques when she's returned to her prison.
That's precisely my point. We offer faunas the exact same wages given to the rest of our mining staff.
The melody of Path to Isolation when she talks about her family to Yang.
When I was 10, my dad finally admitted to my mom that the only reason he married her was for the family name.
Or the swells of This Life Is Mine as Weiss jumps back into the Battle of Haven ready to kick some fucking ass. Interestingly, certain characters' musical themes are inversions of other characters' themes, the first two examples of which come to mind are Crow, whose theme is an inversion of the Red Like Roses melody.
I found him!
I think her uncle could use some help.
Oh. I found him.
and Winter, whose theme is an inversion of the Mirror Mirror melody.
What's going on? Some crazy guy.
Huge thank you to Shinu for pointing this out in her review of the Volume 3 soundtrack where I originally learned this. If anyone understands RWBY's music best, it's her. There's also melodies that have to do with the story at hand, or in the case of Yang and Blake, their relationship and character arcs. When Yang jumps in to protect Blake from Adam in Volume 6, Chapter 11, the score incorporates the melody of Armed and Ready, which is all about Yang overcoming her trauma to get payback on the guy who took everything from her, Adam. And then when Yang's semblance returns as she breaks Adam's aura, and when Adam is finally killed before he can kill Blake, the melody of Nevermore, the end credits scene of Volume 6, plays. Such a good song, and such a good moment. In RWBY, music and story are inseparable. They are interwoven. RWBY's music is much beloved for a very good reason beyond its quality. It tells the stories of the characters, oftentimes more efficiently than the series often does. Every year, we're always ready to sell our souls during the wait for the next soundtrack, and this year is no different. Music and sound are integral to RWBY's identity and brand, and it's definitely an approach I wish more series would take. No word yet on the Volume 6 soundtrack as of making this video, and probably of publishing this video. But given the Volume 5 soundtrack just kind of dropped out of nowhere and was announced like 12 hours before it came out. But then again, there's also the fact that the soundtrack usually doesn't come out till the Blu-ray does, and the Blu-ray for Volume 6 isn't coming out till like early July, and I'm like, I'm gonna die before we get there. Just give me Indomitable, man. Just give it to me. Whether you're belting Nevermore straight up or joyously squelching to its melody as Yang cracks all of Adam's ribs, it's certainly a sound that's gonna be stuck in your head for a long time to come. Although this is completely irrelevant, I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but like, y'all know I don't hate Adam, right? Like, I actually love what they did with his character in Volume 6. Like, I went from hating him to, when the scar was revealed, instantly, like, loving his character. So, like, I don't know why you're reaching for this unicorn hates Adam narrative. I don't know what's happening. I'm tired. I need food. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video and want to see more content from me, then be sure not only to check out my other content, RWBY and otherwise, but also to please consider supporting the channel over on Patreon and or checking out the links to my cursed book in the description below. It's killing me inside. I'm nearly done, like, with the final round of edits. I'm kind of stuck in this realm of, but like, I hate myself and everything I create, but like my friends are legit threatening my life if I don't publish this thing. So, yeah. I'm the Unicorn of War, and this has been a shit show. Like the comments.